Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tuesday, December 20th, 2011. My name is Day 9, and I would like to talk a little bit about design of games, because who doesn't love games? Because that's what this channel is about. I want to talk a little bit about the games in general that I like, and I want this to transition to a discussion about something that I miss about StarCraft Brood War as it relates to StarCraft II. So, in terms of games I like, obviously StarCraft I, StarCraft II, and all their associated expansions and all that stuff. There's also a game called Beatmania 2DX that I absolutely freaking love. You should look it up. It's Beatmania, one word, and then IIDX, like Roman numeral 2. You can see videos of it on YouTube and that thing. It's a rhythm game that involves lots of twitchy spamming of buttons, and has like a turntable, so a lot of times when I'm tapping in like Starbucks, you'll see me rock out with a little turntable. You got a pinky scratch, so that way you can hit a button and scratch at the same time. How's that for multitasking? I also like a lot of real-time twitchy reflex kind of games. Something like Super Puzzle Fighter HD Remix I like quite a bit. There's also games like Castlevania Symphony of the Night. It's real-time, but there's this sort of instant reflex element to it, where you're wandering around, hopping, swiping your sword, and every now and again you'll need a backdash or jump and hit something at the right angle. And I like that sort of twitchiness, I guess. I like twitchy games. I like tweaking out. So what I want to begin this discussion of design with is to think about a design space that is not a game space like on your computer. It's not on a board game, but I want you to envision a game that's on a field. And let's say we want to make a strategy game. We're game designers. We have embarked upon the quest to make a cool strategy game where a field is our playing space. So let's talk a little bit in the abstract area. Let's say we have some pillars that represent territories. Let's say we have 10 pillars that are set up everywhere. And then let's say that we put some obstacles around, maybe some little mounds, maybe we have like some nets floating off in the air. And we now have this field with these pillars and these obstacles, and we introduce 2 players into this game. What would be the object of manipulation in this game? In StarCraft II, you use your mouse and keyboard to, fiddle with units on the screen and make them move around and do stuff. What about in our strategy game? We're going to have players who are only allowed to stand in certain areas, and we're going to give them a baseball. Yeah, we're going to give them baseballs. And we're going to say, you have to throw it, and you have to strike the pillars, and this is the way of, claiming territory or scoring points. Something like this. The specific rules of our game, I don't want to worry about right now, but I still want you to envision a field where we have 10 pillars sticking out, and we have these various obstacles in the way. What does that feel like to throw a baseball at a pillar sticking out of the ground? Have you ever tried to hit a tree with a baseball? Or more simply, throw a baseball to another person? Maybe not to hit a person, maybe unless you really didn't like them and you were trying to, maybe so I can hit him in the head. Nothing like that. Just trying to throw it with accuracy. As you can imagine, there is not that much more to do with a baseball once you can hit your goal target. There's absolutely things like you can throw it faster, which is, an entire art in itself about how you move your whole body. You can throw it maybe a little bit higher or lower. You can throw a curveball, maybe to get a sort of arc to hit your target. But but a lot of those are mainly used in the sport of baseball to make it harder for the person to hit. Let's say I am just trying to hit a tree that's there. The struggle with a baseball is pretty much, can I throw accurately or can I not throw accurately? I feel that this is the way that a lot of units function in StarCraft II. You get the unit, the question is what unit do you want to build, but once you get that unit, it's very much so like a baseball. You just kind of tell it to do things, or not. Same way with a baseball. Once I can throw a baseball accurately, it's do I want to hit that tree or do I want to hit that tree? It's kind of a binary object. But I want you to, again, imagine our game in a field where we have all our pillars and our structures. And I want to ask you a question. how do we make this game more complicated? How do we make it more interesting, might be a better term. What's the immediate thing that you think of? How do we make our game more interesting, our game in our field? Well, might maybe throw in some more obstacles in there. That seems reasonable. That'll spice things up a bit. But even if we throw in more obstacles, there's not that much more to do with our baseball. It's still, do I want to hit that tree over there, or do I want to hit this tree over here? We might have something like a large mound where I can throw over the mound and hit the tree, but there's not that much amazingness about throwing a baseball a little bit higher or a little bit more straight. You might say something like, let me increase the number of pillars. Let me make it 20 pillars. Whoa! Now suddenly, there's a lot more decisions to make in our game. It becomes more strategic. For any of you who have ever played the game Go, the way Go works is you're placing stones at intersections on a giant grid. There are 9 by 9 grids, that's 81 squares. There's 13 by 13 grids, that's 169 squares. It's about doubling it. And then there's a 19 by 19 grid, which is 361 freaking squares that you can place things on. Did I do that right? Yes. Okay, there's 361 squares that you can place it on. Cool. What we've done is we've increased the complexity just by making there be more decisions. That's what we can do with this baseball. Now, everything I've done thus far is I've created a situation where we had a design goal. We have a game in a space. We've, thought of how we want to interact with it with a baseball, and we've tried to make it a little bit more complex by increasing the number of pillars around here. Because, again, even though I'm just throwing to hit things, there's some strategy involved. Which pillar do I want to hit? Oh, God, there's like 6 I could hit from here. Which would be the best to help me win? Now, here is where we start talking about a little bit of StarCraft Brood War. I'm getting artosis wiggly with delight. This is the moment where I would say, well, what if instead of a baseball, you had a Frisbee that you were throwing to hit these objects? With a Frisbee, there are a ton of ways to throw a Frisbee. Throwing straight to hit a tree or throwing straight to hit a target is basically the first tier of skill, just being able to do that. Now, well, I could actually throw forehands. I can throw backhands. I can throw backhands with an arc out like this. I can throw a backhand at an angle, so it kind of curves like that. I can do the same thing with all the other throws, do forehands and backhands in and out. I can throw really far away with a really wide arc to have it sort of come in. There's actually a throw called a hammer where you throw it vertically and it does the following path where it kind of and it sort of flies like that. A Frisbee is almost a physics object. So you can envision now I'm in my field where I ask the question, how do I make this game more interesting? Well, how about we don't up it to 20 poles? How about we just give you Frisbees instead of baseballs? Now all of a sudden I can say, well, I can hit that tree, I can hit that tree, and if I'm really good, I can throw a really wide arc around this net to hit that pole. Suddenly my ability to do more interesting things with a single throw gives me more options. It's no longer binary. It's no longer this or that or that. It's this or that, or if I'm really good, I have these other 2 options, but I don't know if I'm really on today. And that's something that I really feel was amazing about Brood War, is that the individual units felt like these cool physical objects, where I'm almost envisioning little multipliers pop up above units, where let's say I take my zealots and I say, okay, go attack, and I lift my hands off. They will be 1x as effective. If I control them well, I can get it up to 3 or 4 times as effective by slightly rearranging, getting a better arc, grouping them in this way. I can get it quite a bit more effective. Things like mutalisks, I can get them like 9 to 10 times as effective by controlling them very, very well, by being aware of the physical nature of mutalisks, how they manipulate. It's no longer, do I attack this? It's how I attack it, at what angle, what's the timing with it. And this is honestly what I think made a lot of Brood War games really tense and really interesting. That a battle would engage, and both players would start controlling their units, and they'd both, boom, be bouncing the 1x of their units up to 4 or 5x as effective. Or if one player wasn't looking, your 1x as effective units against my 5x as effective, I will crush you with having almost no loss. This is how a lot of comebacks would happen, is in these amazing situations where I don't really want to use the word micro, but it's micro. It's also positioning. It's also choosing, how to engage. I mean, if you have a composition of units, do you want to have the lurkers on this side? Do you want the zerglings on this side? Do you want it swapped like that? Do you want zerglings and lurkers on the left and another half of zerglings and lurkers on the right? And then how do you burrow what at what angle? When do you tell things to attack? When do you pull back? It's not the fancy dancing of having one Marine kill off one lurker. It's even more subtle about having, how do you rearrange your Dragoons against his Dragoons in a Dragoon versus Dragoon micro fight, where again, you could get these big multipliers up. And this was such a delight to have someone say, hey, Sean, you know those Mutalisks that you're just sending into battle? Well, there are a variety of techniques to get them to be 9 times as effective. And then I try them out, and I can maybe get it to 3 or 4 times as effective. Not up to 9 times as effective, but I feel the distance above that I have left to go, and I feel how much higher I am than this 1x, and that's when my brain's kind of peeled open, where I'm going, oh my gosh, that is something special. And in Starcraft II, I feel like with micro, you can maybe get to like 1.5x. And if you are the absolute best controller in the world, you can maybe get to 1.55x. But not to the levels that you had in Brood War by any measure. And of course, let me just state for the record, I could be totally full of it right now. There could be a bunch of micro techniques that are invented in 6 months that completely throw what I'm saying under a bus, and that's fine. This is just sort of the feel that I generally get, and I also want to say that this by no means makes StarCraft II a bad game. Let's take, for instance, Go that I brought up earlier, where you have a 9x9 board of Go, and you say, well, how do I make it more interesting? How about 19x19? Wow! The game is now absolutely spectacularly deep. Computers can't even solve the game to beat even a remotely decent player because it's so unbelievably complicated. These decisions are still making the game unbelievably kick-ass. And in StarCraft II, I feel the same way. It's a kick-ass game. I'm going to play it right after I get done with this daily. However, I miss the physicality of a lot of units. Marines feel pretty identical to Marauders to me, feel pretty damn similar to Stalkers, and it's not to say that there's anything wrong with the game. It's great, but a lot of times I will see an army and see another army, and it is absolutely clear what the outcome of this battle should be, sort of unequivocally. You look at it, and this army beats that one 100% of the time. What's really delightful to see in the last few months happen is players are getting better and better and better at getting the right compositions at the right times. So suddenly we're getting forces that are actually quite even, where it does come down to that sort of fine control. And there are clever micro techniques. A lot of Terran players I've seen pick up into medevacs against Colossus just to avoid little bits of damage. Really, really clever, really effective. But a lot of what I'm saying felt true in like the first 18 months of release. I missed this physicality to it. And I bring this up because I feel as though many design studios kind of say the following. What's really frustrating as a player? Wanting to do something, deciding it, and your unit doesn't really do it. Have you ever played a platformer, like a Mario-style game, with really terrible jump controls? Ugh, it sucks, right? You try to jump and you try to land on this platform, but let's say your control after you've jumped is bad, and you jump and you overshoot it and die, and you jump in front of it and die, and you're thinking, damn it, game, why don't you just let me freaking jump and land? Ugh! There's a lot of games that actually let you, that sort of automate some things. Like, in terms of jumping, it's like walk to the edge and then jump, kind of like they did in Ocarina of Time. Except they don't do it well like they did in Ocarina of Time, and you just end up jumping off cliffs to your death. That is frustrating in a game. I'm sure as many of you gamers out there know, that is maddening in a game. And I feel like what a lot of studios will do is they'll say, okay, cool, well, here's the line that represents what you want to do, right? This is like 1x. This is like boxing your zealots and saying, go attack. And they walk and they go attack, right? You've never said, box zealots, go attack, and the zealots accidentally stop and sit down and have a picnic, right? As many design studios do, right? But here's the 1x line, where this is what you want to do. I feel like, oh god, my computer fell asleep. Stream still good? Alright, good. My computer just powered down. Whoops. So anyways, here's the damn 1x line I keep wanting to talk about. So when you make a decision, I feel like a lot of studios do the correct thing, which is to try to bring it up to here, where everything is kind of like what you want to do. For example, Blizzard introduced infinite unit selection in Starcraft II. Makes sense, doesn't it? I want to send 50 units into battle. Well, in Brood War, you had to box, send, box, send, box, send, box, send, and then box and send, because you know what? You can select in groups of 12, and if you have 50 units, those other 2 guys remaining, yeah, you got to do a special box for them. So that was kind of annoying. So let's just make it so you can box everything in one group and say, go. Cool, we're bringing the amount of decision, or the decision you could make closer, or the execution you could do closer to what you want. But the one thing that bums me out is that this ceiling up here, which is you can do more, it feels flattened. It feels like you can make a decision of what you want to do, and boom, there you go. All this skill that you could do with Mutalisks and all that stuff in Brood War, it's gone. And this isn't just me talking about one game. I feel like there's a lot of games that have this property to it, where you're just kind of deciding things, and it's all about what decision you do. It's not about, well, this is what I want to work with. Let me see how far I can stretch this. I feel like a lot of shooting games kind of help this, with like aim and that sort of thing, and maneuverability. Quake 3 was really incredible at this, with like the sort of bunny hopping and maneuvering and all that sort of good stuff. Made it really, really, really fun to do. So, this whole discussion is not at all a slandering about StarCraft II. It's not saying StarCraft II is missing stuff. It's not saying it's bad. It's saying that Brood War had this amazing physicality to units that I loved, and I want that more. I miss that. I really enjoy that. So to designers out there, I like games where you design Frisbees rather than designing baseballs. I like the physical objects more than I like the decision aspect. Might be just me, I'm a twitchy gamer, but damn it, I like playing with Frisbees. That's my thoughts on game design, damn it. Yeah!